Welcome to the Winging It Travel podcast with me, James Hammond. Every Monday, I'll be joined by guests to talk about their travel stories, travel tips, backpacking advice, and so much more. Right now, I'm taking the podcast on the road travelling with me. So tune in every week for short-form episodes detailing all my travels alongside my Monday guest episode. Are you a backpacker, gap year student, or simply someone who loves to travel? Then this is the podcast for you, designed to inspire you to travel. There'll be stories to tell, tips to share, and experiences to inspire. Welcome to the show. Hello and welcome to this week's episode. On today's episode, I've got some travel news, a travel story, and my top 10 favourite dishes / foods of my trip from last year. So let's get stuck in to the episode. Right, to kick off some travel news. We mentioned this before, but I've got some more updates for this. This is tourist hotspots that are introducing entry fees or price hikes for 2024. There's a new $13 charge for climbing Mount Fuji this year. This is alongside Japan's decision to increase the Japanese rail pass by 70%. So get your wallets ready for Japan this year. If you want to go and see the Plaza de España Square in Seville, Spain, they're going to have entry fees coming this year, so watch out for that. The Louvre Art Museum in Paris has raised prices by a third. So not only is Paris quite expensive, it's going to get more expensive. If there are any Disney World Resort fans out there, I don't think there's many, but there must be some, in Florida, in advance of 2025, the single park ticket prices are going to go up by $10. So make sure you get in this year before they increase their revenues. Next up is Travel Awards. We are in the season for the awards happening, as you might know, with Oscars and all that sort of rubbish. But the World Travel Awards have happened, and they have named the most underrated city in Europe this year. So I'm going to give you a few seconds to guess. Previously, Batumi in Georgia has won it for the last 5 years. So that's interesting, isn't it? Because has it not just kicked off for the last 5 years? But this year's most underrated city in an emerging European destination is Braga in Portugal. I've never been. Porto and Lisbon normally get the limelight. I went to Madeira last year, but Braga seems to be coming up. It's got a young student population, some bustling nightlife, got some historical buildings and sites, and it's one of Portugal's oldest city. It's also known as the Portuguese Rome, those classic titles. It's got dazzling religious landmarks to explore, such as old sanctuaries, etc. And it beats the likes of Ljubljana in Slovenia, Matera in Italy, and Tartu in Estonia in the emerging destination category. Go and check it out. One of the largest travel shows in the world was in Berlin this year. It's called the ITB. And a Global Destination of the Year award went to Jamaica, a country I've not really explored at all on my podcast. I don't know too many people who talk about it or have even been. It's got an amazing history, an interesting history as well, but just doesn't seem to get mentioned that much. I know it's one of the biggest islands in the Caribbean. Maybe I need to do an episode on it or get someone on who's been. So I need some recommendations for that. I imagine it's awesome for music, culture, the food, the beaches, the weather. Sounds like it's got everything you need for a nice little trip. And last year, they welcomed over 4 million international visitors and earning $4.2 billion US in revenue. So people are tending to go there. Yep, make it on my list. It's going to be an episode coming up this year for sure. Last on my travel news is China has extended visa-free entry to 4 more European countries. Now, you may not know these countries can get a visa-free entry, so I'm going to list some out. They are France, Germany, Ireland, Italy, Netherlands, Spain, and Switzerland. And now the citizens of Austria, Belgium, Hungary, and Luxembourg can join them and enter China without a visa. Visa-free entry will be granted for up to 15 days. It's a bit of a trial at the minute, but I think they're going to bring it in for 1 year and see how it goes. The reason for this is international travel hasn't really bounced back yet in China due to the COVID restrictions they had for quite a long time over there. It kind of discouraged many people to go and visit, and also 3 years is quite a long time for people to even consider China, for example, was back into their thoughts of travel. They previously allowed citizens of Brunei, Japan, Singapore to enter without a visa, but suspended that after the COVID-19 break, and they have resumed it for Brunei and Singapore, but not Japan, interestingly. And in 2023, China recorded 35.5 million entries and exits by foreigners, according to immigration statistics. That compares to 97.7 million for all of 2019 before the pandemic. So they're obviously pushing hard to get those international visitors back to China. It is one of those countries I would love to spend a great deal of time in. It's huge. There's loads of different cultures within the states and the cities of China. You probably would have to learn a bit of language if you're going to go into the non-touristy areas, but it seems like a challenge. So don't believe the news. Get to China and go and check it out. Travel story. Right, next up is my travel story from Vanuatu. I've actually shared a story before about meeting the president there. It's quite an interesting story, that one. But this one came into my mind because I saw a post on Instagram the other day, and it asked about if you checked in to a dodgy place to save a bit of cash, do you go in there with a bit of a positive view, then realise what an absolute hell it is once you're checked in? And that reminds me of Vanuatu, because we were supposed to fly out one day, and it got delayed to the next day, but the airport closed, so we couldn't stay in the airport, and we don't really have any data on our phones, anything like that. So like, where the hell do we go to even find somewhere to stay? We met this family who were, I think, travelling to the UK. It's like a 3-pronged attack for them for their flights. And they were panicking because they got connecting flights which are going to be delayed from this flight. It seemed a bit stressful. But eventually they phoned and got some clarity from their situation and offered us a lift to somewhere they knew where it might have some accommodation, which was also recommended by the airport staff. They arrived in this little area just outside the airport. It's got a couple of like Chinese restaurants and maybe a shop, and that is it. And I was like, where is this place? And there's this little door as you go in. And we said, is this somewhere we can stay for the night? And we got told, it's this price. I think the price was roughly 20 to 25 US dollars, something like that. And it was quite dark. We're like, it's a bit dark in here, no real lights. So the guy said, here's your key, you're this door number. And as we walked up the stairs with all of our possessions, we're like, this is interesting. Previously, when we got dropped off by the family, they said, we'll pick you up because we're not sure what this place is about. We're a little bit worried for you. We'll pick you up at 5 a.m. next morning and we'll be outside and we can't contact you, so please be there. Like, okay, fair enough. So we agreed to that. We're kind of thinking, can't we just come back with you to your family home and stay there? But anyway, no worries. We walked up the stairs and what we saw was what I would consider an absolute psychotic nightmare of an abandoned hospital feel with flickering lights. No actual lights were working, no electricity, a few sparks in the corner, no running water, no aircon. Now Vanuatu is quite hot and we were absolutely sweating our asses off in this room, and this room had a cardboard bed and that is it. And we kind of cried a little bit of how awful is the situation, but also laughed at the same time. And we got our torch out and we went together to the toilet because we were not sure what this place was, but it looked like an abandoned hospital or an abandoned prison with a lot of ghosts in there. Super scary night. I think we did have a fan in the room, didn't really work. There's hot air flying about, and we managed to get some very basic food from the shop downstairs. But it was hot, sweaty, scary, quiet, no running water, no water to drink. It really was one of the most earthiest accommodations I've ever stayed at, and I can't believe we paid 20 to 25 US dollars to stay there. And when the family picked us up next morning, which they did turn up, thankfully, because otherwise if they didn't turn up, I don't know how we would have got to the airport. They asked how it was, and I don't think we could really describe how terrified we were, but we all ended up laughing, talking about it on the way to the airport. I don't know if they got to their destination in time or caught their flights, but an interesting story for the winging it. We did wing it. You got to do what you got to do if you've got no other choice but to find somewhere to stay with no internet. You've got to wing it, hope for the best, pay some money, and at least we got one room which we could lock to ourselves. But we saw absolutely no one else in this place. I don't even think it was a hotel. I think it's just someone's house or someone's apartments, and they're just like, if anyone wants to stay, they can stay there. The only thing I remember seeing is a group of, I think they're like locals or Chinese guys playing cards downstairs. That's all I remember. So there you go. Vanuatu. Cheers. Just a couple of things from me. Please head to my new website, www.wingingittravelpodcast.com. The link is in the show notes, where you can access everything about this podcast, how to support the podcast, where to find episodes, a little bit of information about me, how to contact me, how to sponsor the podcast, how to be a guest. Everything is on there for you to take a look at. And secondly, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. I've got weekly episodes coming out for all my travels, pretty much the last year and going a little bit further back. And of course, my future travels coming up in 2024. It'll be great to see you on there. It helps podcasts gain that extra bit of traction, and I'm really enjoying showing you my content I have from the last year or so. Thank you. Right, I'm going to list my top 10 favourite dishes and or foods of 2023 on our year trip. In no particular order in terms of how good they are, just 10, and there's a bonus number 11 at the end. Okay, number 1, straight off the bat, is dal bhat in Nepal. It is a thali-like dish, so you get a nice round tray with some veg curry, rice, and naan bread, maybe even a sweet treat afterwards, and it's normally fresh made from local ingredients. If you want top quality, fresh, healthy food, dal bhat is one of the best dishes you can get in the world. And traditionally, it's all you can eat. So if you run out or you want a bit more, you just ask and they give you a bit more. Result. Number 2 is a shawarma in Lebanon. Now, I had a chicken one. I might have even had a veg one. Middle Eastern food is great. I don't react brilliantly to it, but the shawarma, that just barbecued, that sort of grilled chicken is unbelievable. You can find it anywhere. Also, it was iftar style as well. So we've got loads and loads of food to eat. Way too much to handle. Unbelievable. Number 3, I've got the Anatolian pottery kebab, which uses an Avanos pot. Now, in Cappadocia, if you go and visit, you can get these hot pots, and it's piping hot with food inside, and the waitress or the server will bang the pot and break it for you in front of you, and all the contents falls out onto your plate, or you can just dip in with a spoon or fork, and the taste is unlike anything other. Hot pots are absolutely awesome. Number 4, I've got a veggie hash in Calgary, because we went to a restaurant which is like a diner type style and had a veggie hash. Now, if you're not sure what that is, over here you can get brunch, and it's normally roasted potatoes, and it's got vegetables and eggs and even meat on top, and it's got like a barbecue Mexican flavour. Arguably healthy breakfast dish, but normally quite big portions, but unbelievable. And we found one in Calgary that was just sensational. Next up is momos. You cannot beat a good old plate of momos. We obviously ate them in Nepal, and they were first tried many years ago in Nepal. You just can't beat them. I think I tried them in India as well back in the day. Just love them. They can be fried or steamed, full of veg. Awesome. Here's a specific one for you next. It is a bagel with cream cheese at Flexit Cafe in Ellsworth in Maine. I could not believe how good this bagel tasted with the cream cheese. I don't know what they've done to it. It's almost like it's a little bit fried almost. I just couldn't believe what I was tasting. And unbelievably, I've got no video or photo of it, so I must have been hungry at the time. But it was an absolute dream to start the day. Cheers, Ellsworth. Number 7 here, I've got Dun Cafe in Istanbul, and we had the halloumi veggie brunch. Not very Turkish, but the halloumi, the tomatoes, the mushrooms, oh, it's absolutely sensational. So Dun Cafe is in the area of Moda in Istanbul. We've got a lot of trendy cafes around there. Go and check it out. You won't regret it. Number 8 is something that I did not really try before, but ended up loving, and I miss it every day now. So number 8 is baklava in Turkey. You usually get it free, one bit, with your meal. So you order your meal, a hot pot, for example, or it could be a kebab, whatever you're ordering, and they normally give you a baklava afterwards for a little taster. And my word, baklava is sensational. And some places, if you ask nicely and speak a bit of Turkish, will give you an extra 1 or 2 as well, which I didn't mind asking for. Number 9 is Venice, and it's a tagliatelle at Cantina Aziende Agricole. If you go onto my YouTube channel and check out my Venice episode, I show a picture and describe that meal. Traditional Italian local restaurant full of cheese, pasta. What else do you want? Number 10 to finish the official list, and I'm not afraid to say this one, is Koko Ishibanya in Seoul. Now, I talked about this Japanese curry on my interview with Matthew Baxter a few weeks ago, because Japanese curry is awesome, and this company, Koko, are equally awesome, and they have many locations around the world. Some in London, I believe, Delhi. I think got some in USA as well. They have a touchscreen iPad, so you can obviously order in English, and explains all the menu to you. And it is vegan friendly, gluten-free friendly, vegetarian friendly, any of the other allergies you can think of, peanut as well. So it really is a safe space to have a proper traditional Japanese curry. Now, my number 11 and unofficial addition to this one is Dubai. And I was absolutely craving a roast dinner. And we found an English-style pub at a very trendy establishment called the Dhow and Anchor, which is by the Burj Al Arab, that very famous hotel. And we felt a little bit out of place because we were kind of dressed in shorts and t-shirt, and a lot of the clientele were dressed very smartly. A lot of rich people in there as well. But an expensive roast, 30 British pounds, so 50 Canadian dollars, which each is a heck of a price to pay for a meal. But I was just absolutely gasping for some roast potatoes, roasted meat, and some gravy. What a meal. That concludes today's episode and my top 10 foods, with a bonus one at the end. If you want to comment on them, let me know. Let me know your favourites from around the world as well. I love trying local foods, and I can't wait to try more in the future. And thanks for tuning in. I'll catch you at the next episode. Cheers. Hey, yeah, just a quick one. I just want to say there are many ways to support this podcast. You can buy me a coffee and help support the podcast with $5. Or you can go to my merch store with the affiliate link with TeePublic, where there's plenty of merch available to buy, such as t-shirts, jumpers, hoodies, and also some children's clothing. Thirdly, which is free, you can also rate and review this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podchaser, or Good Pods. Also, you can find me on social media on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and TikTok. Simply just search for Winging It Travel Podcast, and you'll find me displaying all my social media content for travelling, podcast, and other stuff. Thank you.